Hi, everyone. This is Althea Walters, your host for the Focus and Full. Now, I am a corporate trainer. I am a productivity coach. I'm a small business coach as well. And today on my podcast, I have Heather Criswell. I could wait to interview Heather. And she is a communication expert. And Heather is going to talk to us about how to make that connection, how to increase your energy, how to work with different aspects of you internally to communicate and connect better with people. Now, uh, we know communication is at the heart of everything everybody does. And who would want to know how to master that in order to connect with people even greater? So, Heather, I'm going to hand over to you. Just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and journey, and just tell us about what this connection is all about.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for doing this for the world. It's amazing. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. So, my journey has been a long journey of entrepreneurship. I have owned preschool for nearly a decade, wellness center shortly after that, and a couple of online businesses as well. So, between there, a little sprinkle of a couple of books. And what I've realized over time is that one of the biggest problems that we have in business, in relationships, in parenting, in life is that we are miscommunicating. And it's not just that you don't understand me, I don't understand you. It's that we're not using the right words and energy to convey what we're wanting in any circumstance.
Yes.
And so people get lost, and so I really kind of pieced all of that together, especially with a preschool. The children are the greatest teachers on this planet, and they are very clear with their words, right? There's no—
They say what they want. They say what they want.
Totally. And they don't have any self-esteem, self-worth issues. I'm talking about young children. We start to learn to have those, but 2-year-old thinks that I'm amazing, I'm great, look at my art, it's perfect, it's great, I'm the best artist, I'm amazing. No, I don't want to go outside. Yes, I do. I don't want that food. They're very, very clear. And we learn over time to muddy those waters when we talk to each other, out of common courtesy, out of fear. There's a lot of different reasons why we do it. And then I opened a wellness center and was a massage therapist in it as well, and learned how to listen to the energy of the body, because there's nothing worse than having a massage therapist that talks all day while you're getting massaged. So it's true.
I can totally understand.
Yes, you're like, just shut up. Let's stop talking. Yeah. So I had to listen to the body. And so I would be massaging and I'd be at someone's feet and I'd hear in my head, oh, I really want McDonald's. And I'm like, that's not me. I hate McDonald's. Like, I'd rather not eat anything than McDonald's. And at the end of the massage, the girl goes, oh God, I'm so glad the massage is over. And I'm like, oh, was there a problem? And she said, no. She said, I just want some McDonald's, So you have to listen to the body. You have to listen to the energy of what we are. And everybody knows when you walk in a room and somebody's angry or pissed, you can feel that energy. They don't have to say a word, nothing.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we get these clues and tools to support us in these communication spaces, because I'm consulting with a dentist group right now, and I'm working with them, and it's so interesting because one thinks that one understands each other and the other one is thinking that they understand each other, and they're actually saying very similar things, but it's completely different. And so their perceptions are off, they're angry at each other, when really they are on the same page. They just didn't have the tools to connect the dots. So that's really my goal. Go ahead.
Okay. So you said some interesting things. So I'm going to just point them out. So I like your journey from a preschool, speaking with kids, learning to connect at that level. And there's no cloud, there's nothing over there, there's no filter,
No,
over their patient. It is so clear. So I like that journey, and the journey going into the massage where, through adulthood, and we're connecting now with adults and learning how to communicate through the body and listening actively. So there's a distinction between the two groups, far and wide. And that is so important because as we journey through life, as we journey through different areas, our communication can get weaker or stronger based on the tools that we have, based on the techniques that we know, and based on the support that you can provide for us. So I want to hear more about even communicating through the body, because it's like I knew it is a thing, but I am just zoning in on it. Right? What was that like in terms of learning that level of communication to communicate through energy and through the
right.
body?
Well, it definitely takes a lot of practice because you think you're going cuckoo, right? You think you're crazy. And I'm like, McDonald's, I don't want McDonald's. I hate McDonald's. As I'm massaging her feet. So there's a level of discounting what you're hearing. And I consider that conversation as intuition, as your gut feeling, that we all have that, right? Where you go down the street and you're like, I don't know why I'm supposed to go this way home, but I need to go this way home. Or I don't know why I shouldn't eat that, but it's not in my best interest. Like those gut feelings that, we just recently moved, and there was a part where I was like, oh man, we're not going to be here very long. I'm not going to change my driver's license and insurance and registration in my car because I just knew it. And I was like, oh, no, that's just silly. Of course we're going to be here. We just moved here. And a month later, we're moving back, right? So there's little stories that go on. And, a lot of people might think they feel crazy, but it's really a gut feeling. And it's not intended to scare us or frustrate us. It's intended to be as a beacon of light to guide us through life. And so really practicing that and honing in on that is important in any conversation when you're sitting there. That's why a lot of times people say, listen. I don't think it's necessarily that you're listening. I think that's where we're off. They're like, you have to be quiet and you have to listen to people. I don't think it's actually listening with our ears. It's listening with our soul, our spirit, our energy of like, your words are saying something, but your body's not saying that. Your words are saying, I really want to have this party. And your soul's like, I don't really want to do this, but I'm just going to do it because she's going to make her happy. And, ask my husband, he wants to go eat seafood. And I'm like, I don't want seafood, but I'll go because he wants seafood,
Yes. So is there a thing that you believe that as adults, because I think kids have it straight, they have it clear, right?
Right.
We need to probably pause in order to connect with our bodies and our minds and our souls, right?
Yes. So, there's three things that I say in any conversation. If you're having a conversation with yourself, if you're having a conversation with your significant other, a boss, corporate, I train corporate people all the time in their space. And these are the three questions that must be asked in any conversation, and especially with your own self. And the first one is, what am I wanting? So when we're in any situation, let's just say going out to dinner, right? As a simple one, right? What am I wanting? I really want some Mexican food, but I don't want seafood. And so a lot of times when we're in a conversation, somebody will say, well, what do you want? Your friend will say, well, what do you want? Well, I don't know. What do you want? When you know what you want. And she says, well, I want Thai food. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want Thai food, but I don't want to hurt her feelings and I don't want her to be mad and I really want her to be happy. Well, I don't know. What else? What do you think? And so we have this little song and dance. So it's always getting clear, what am I wanting? That's the first question. The second question is, what's the energy I'm bringing to it? So in this instance of eating with my friend, right? I I don't I don't really care what we eat. Fine, we can go eat Thai food. I don't really care. Or I really don't want Thai food. I really don't want it. And coming in with whatever energy, being super clear that this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is what I'm willing to do, this is what I'm not willing to do. Before you even have a conversation, then you go into the third
Yes.
question is, what's my inspired action? So my inspired action is I say, look, I don't really want Thai food because it doesn't feel good to me. Like I don't feel good after it, or I just don't want it today. But I'm open to seafood. I'm open to hamburgers. I'm open to Mexican food. I'm open to, is there another choice that you have? Now we break down those walls of, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't want to make her mad.
Yes.
All of the things that we do. And so those three questions you can carry with yourself. So even coming back to asking yourself, like coming back to dialing into the energy for yourself, right? So what's an instance for you in particular that you had a hard time where somebody asked you to do something that you just didn't want to do?
Yeah. Those things happen to us all the time.
Yes. So let's just say that you have let's just say you have a coaching client, and your coaching client says, your corporate client says to you, yeah, we really want you to coach. So you go, okay, well, in your head, you need to have a conversation with yourself first. What am I wanting? I'm wanting a gig that's 3 months. I want $22,000. That's the lowest I will go. That's my deal breaker. Because we all have deal breakers, not boundaries, deal breakers. Deal breakers define us. Yes. Boundaries, we can kind of work around. So,
yes.
So you say to yourself in that moment, before you even have a conversation with a coaching client, I want $22,000. I want to work for at least 3 months. And so now, and I'm going to do that with the renewal of a 6 month at $30,000, whatever. So now you come into the conversation and they say, well, we're going to do 15 grand. 22 grand is your deal breaker in your head. So you've already had that conversation with yourself. So you're not like, and then taking the client and then being aggravated and resentful because you weren't in alignment before you got it. So we've got to back up the train and have a conversation with ourselves first. My deal breaker is nothing less than 22,000. That's my deal breaker, nothing less. So you have to also be willing to walk away,
Yes.
Because then you break that conversation with yourself. Like you break your promise to yourself.
Yeah. And that's a good coaching moment, even for me while we're on the call. And something like that happened to me this week. And literally, I had to write an email this morning to remind about my deal breaker. And it comes back to the point that you have to be so clear in yourself. So these 3 questions that you asked will also help me, because sometimes we know them, but we don't apply them. So what am I wanting?
I have to tell you this too. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No problem.
I have to tell you this. When I asked you, did you have a problem? There was a slight delay, so I just kept going. And what I realized was, again, tapping into energy, right? I have never met you before. This is the first time we've met.
Correct.
I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about your business. And other than that, I know you're a coach or whatever. But the fact that this happened this week and today you write that letter tells me that's the energy I'm talking about, that I don't know anything about you, but I can pick up on that energy and roll with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing, Heather. That's amazing.
that's the practice, right? Like that's the practice of communication right there, because I just knew energetically, I was like, what does she need? And so I ask in my head, what does she need? What does she need to hear? And that's what pops in my head.
There you go. It literally happened this morning. I wrote the email and reminded about my deal breaker, and that's it. And I'm waiting on a response, but I was very clear. And it goes back to us being very clear about what we want first before we go into
Exactly.
and that will help us. And I'm not going to say that sometimes, you're already in the conversation and you may not get to decipher or to work through. But during the conversation, you can go back and ask those 3 questions. What am I wanting? What energy am I bringing to it? And what's my inspired action? Having those tips, having those techniques will help us. Earlier in the conversation, Heather, you shared that as a part of these conversations, we need to be using the right words. We need to be using the right words, because sometimes we are saying the things, we and the other person who we're communicating with, we're saying the same things. You did say that, but there's a certain barrier to us communicating. Those barriers, sometimes we build them ourselves. So I want you to talk about barriers and how they prevent us from even mastering the words to get our communication and our points across.
Yeah, words are powerful, very powerful. Yeah. And one of the words that I use all of the time is that we often say, can you do this? Like as a boss, right? Can you come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning? Right? It seems pretty simple. Can you come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning? That seems like a very clear communicated statement. Question, right? Can you come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning? The other person looks at you and goes, well, yeah, of course I can be here at 8, but do I want to be here at 8? No. Does it piss me off that you want me to be here at 8? Yes. So the anger and frustration builds, and the other person says, well, I just asked you, can you come? And that person's pissed because they don't want to, but they can. So it's a very simple switch of words. The simple switch of words is, are you willing to come at 8 a.m.? Are you willing? So
are you willing?
When you ask anybody anything, would you be willing versus can you, or you should, or I need you to, because those words are speaking from me. But when I'm talking to you in conversation, I want you speaking from you, what you want. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not willing to come in at 8, but you can and do it, I'd rather not have you there at 8 angry and pissed off. I'd rather you come in later and be happy and jolly, if possible. And going back to what you said before, there is always this space of, like you said, there might not be a time where you can ask yourself these questions, but if you get good enough, you can be in the heat of a discussion. You could be in the heat of a fight and say, listen, I need a minute. I'm a little flustered. I need a minute. And you go back in your head, you close your eyes. I always put my hand on my heart. I'm always like, I need a minute, just a minute. I need a minute. And you're
connecting with me. I'm connecting with me now, my body, my own energy.
Yes. And you're honoring that space for yourself. What am I wanting? And it's something that we've been talked out of many, many generations and many lifetimes and many years, that it's selfish to ask what you're wanting, but it isn't. It is not. It is not selfish to know. The best thing we can do for anybody in a conversation is to be clear with who we are, what we want, how we show up on this planet, and how we can support and love you to do the same. That's the best thing that we can do.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely. Yeah, it's real important.
So Heather,
yeah,
that's great, because we need to. I think because you just get up in the day, you just start to we think we're communicating effectively and everything is just going, and we really don't understand, how we can really deeper connect with ourselves. Those questions and how you spin that question to say, instead of can you, are you willing? Are you willing to come to work at that point in time instead of can you come? And how you also said, listen, you want a response from the person's perspective, not really what you want to hear, because you may get what you want to hear and it's not the right thing.
That's it. You may get the
thing.
lip service. You may get the lip service of yeah,
Yes.
I'll come, but you're going to get the energy of a really angry person. And that's
Yes.
not what we're wanting, because everybody wants to be heard and validated and matter and know that their voice means something, that, and I, as a boss or a trainer or a coach, I want to know what you're wanting. Like, I can tell you all day long what I want for you, but that might not even be what you want for you. So, I want to tune into you, what you're needing. And are you willing? That also gives me a space to hold you to it. Because now I said, hey, you said you were willing to do it. Was that not your truth? Now somebody has to say, well, I lied, or I was wrong, or because I'm just holding you to the space of what you said you were willing to do.
Exactly. Great tips, great tools that you're giving us, great techniques. So Heather, just as we're on to wrap up, just wanted to get from you, what are some key lessons and key points that you want with my audience? What are 2 key points about how do we effectively communicate and master our words and energy so that we can connect better with others? 2 things.
So the first thing is always come back to every conversation starts with you first. Every great conversation starts with a conversation with yourself first. You want to quit a job, you want to get a client, you want to get married. The conversation comes with you first. Do I want to be married? Do I want to have children? Do I want to have this job? Is this job in my best, highest good? Is this what I'm feeling is going to light me up on this planet? That conversation with myself first and foremost. What am I wanting? What's the energy I'm bringing to it? Am I excited, or am I aggravated? Am I fearful? Am I mad? Am I happy? And then what's my inspired action? That conversation has to stay with you first. Second point that I would leave with, the most important, is when you hear something in your gut, listen. When your soul says, I don't really want this job, I don't want it. I may need it, but I don't want it. It doesn't mean you don't take the job, but then you have a conversation with yourself and say, okay, I'm committing to this job for 6 months to get me out of debt. And then I'm going to move forward and do something different. So that in your mind, I've got 6 months on this deal, I'm done. These conversations have to keep coming up over and over again. But when you hear something and it says, turn left, when it says, don't eat that, when it says, don't go on a date with this guy, don't do it. Just don't do it. Because there is a reason for that voice in our soul, right? We've all done it and we shouldn't have. So those are the key things. Have the conversation with yourself first, and always listen to that gut feeling, because I used to have a company called WiseInside. There is a wisdom within us that is always with us. And some people attribute it to God, universe, spirit, whatever that is for you, own it, embrace it, and know it's yours. And that's the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Absolutely. That was amazing, Heather. Listen to your gut, listen internally. I think what you reminded me today and reminded us today is that we should connect with ourselves. We forget to connect with ourselves so often, and to be clear in our mind, be clear about our wants, be clear about our interests, and be clear about the energy that we're experiencing for ourselves, and the energy that we want to give to other things and to other people. Heather, it has been an amazing conversation. I totally enjoyed it. I'm grateful for the tips. I'm grateful for the questions that you put out as tools to help support us. I know my audience will enjoy it as well. But Heather, tell us, how do we get in contact with you? how do we reach you for any support, etc.?
I'm at heathercriswell.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, all of those under Heather Criswell, the Heather Criswell. But if you go to heathercriswell.com, you'll be able to connect everything everywhere there.
Okay, great. So it was absolutely amazing. And thank you so much for being on my platform.
Thank you so much
Heather.
for having me. Thank you.